When 23-year-old Laura Nuttall died after a battle with aggressive brain cancer last year, her sister Gracie shared her grief as a sibling on social media and then realised how little it's actually spoken about.
Gracie met Callum, who lost his brother in 2009, here on the Breakfast Sofa late last year. They decided to launch a new podcast to encourage people to talk about sibling loss.
And one person they've spoken to is former Made in Chelsea star Spencer Matthews. Spencer's older brother, Michael, disappeared once climbing Mount Everest.
I kind of had these childlike, whimsical nature around the whole thing that I never truly kind of understood it or believed it. You know, I always assumed that what I was being told was wrong. We never were able to find his body, so he technically would be lost, you know. And as a kid, that was what I hung my hat on, the fact that he was lost temporarily, not dead. You know, even at his memorial service, there was the absence of a body. So to me, you know, doing my reading at his memorial service, in the back of my mind, I thought that I would see him again. And obviously time passes and you realise that that's an impossibility. In the back of my mind, I'm kind of strangely wanting him to be proud of certain things.
Why'd you say strangely?
Yeah, I was going to say.
I don't know, because obviously he's not here to witness any of it. He's not here to be around it. But I guess that it shifted slightly. I suppose children want their parents to be proud of them deep down, whether or not you're willing to admit that. You know, having people in senior positions that you are supposed to look up to feeling proud of you as part of achievement, I suppose. Well, certainly feels that way for me. And in some of my kind of darkest times, has always felt that Mike is there.
We're joined now by Gracie and Callum from the Dead Sibling Society podcast. Good morning.
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 So it kind of, I will talk about what Spencer was saying there, but it kind of started here.
It
you
did.
two. I do remember, because you two really clicked and you'd had some really good conversations and quite, I mean, you've both, I know Gracie a bit better than I know you, Callum, but quite a dark sense of humour.
Yeah, a little bit twisted.
And it's something you shared, isn't it?
Absolutely. We met in the green room here, and you just click when you have those shared experiences with people in whatever way. For us, it happens to be that our siblings have died. We just kind of got each other, and dark sense of humour is exactly what it is. But yeah, it's really nice to be able to speak about things.
And also, I suppose it's nice to be able to talk with someone who gets that you don't necessarily want that head tilt, you know.
Yeah.
How are you all the time? It's like, can we just talk about the...
I like that sometimes, like a little bit of sympathy occasionally, but no, exactly, because people are often scared to speak about death. Our voice kind of tones down, we go a little bit slower, but actually sometimes we can speak about those happy memories of our sibling. We can speak about the silly things that we feel, and you know, we can laugh about it occasionally.
Gracie, talk to us about what... I noticed when I heard a phrase you used earlier, I think in the film we saw earlier on, that your grieving was about the loss, but also about the loss of the future.
Yeah.
Do you want to just explain that a little bit? It makes perfect sense in a way, but I hadn't really thought about it like that before, particularly with a sibling.
Yeah, I think a lot of people say that. You forget that when, you know, you grow up. I spent 21 years having Laura as my sister, and I assumed that I would have her forever, and that, you know, she'd be at my wedding, she'd meet my kids and things like that. And then when that person's gone, so is that idea that you had of yourself. You know, your whole future and the way that you perceive your entire future just disappears too. And you don't really know what it looks like anymore. And it kind of feels like that anchor has gone. And it's nice to be able to speak to someone who gets that as well. And that kind of, you know, everyone, as you grow up, if you've got a sibling, you do assume that they're going to be there forever, and it's weird to just suddenly not have that, and you do feel like you're very unmoored, I think.
It's interesting, because Spencer said something similar just in that clip, where he was like, I want to know that he'd be proud of me. Everything. And when I do things, because even though he's not here, I half do it so he's proud of me, you know, his brother. Do you feel...
Yeah, when Liam died, the day he died, and as I kissed him goodbye, I made him 2 promises. I can't remember if I said it out loud or if I just said it to myself, but I said I wanted to try and help other people like him, but I wanted to live a brilliant life. And living that brilliant life is very much trying to live his life for him as well. And I think that can be actually quite a positive thing. Sometimes out of grief, for years I struggled to speak about it. For years, I struggled with my emotions, but now I can actually reflect that I'm trying to live Liam's life as well. I'm trying to make him proud, but those things are making me a better person too.
Sibling grief. I mean, this is the whole point, the dead sibling society. Why do you think it's not spoken about?
I think we're squeamish about it. I think, as a nation, we don't want to talk about death. It's something that will happen to all of us, but for some reason, we don't want to talk about it. And I think sibling grief particularly, you know, I can't speak on behalf of you, but when I lost Laura, there was nothing. I had, you know, you run the only charity that helps people in that situation, and I couldn't find anything. There was nothing on social media. There was no help, really, for people who've just lost a sibling, particularly young people. And I think we wanted to try and, at least in some way, make other people who are in this situation feel less alone.
And Callum, has that happened? I mean, I'm guessing already, I know the podcast is relatively new, but you must be getting people getting in touch with you, even beyond the work you've already done in the past.
Yeah, well, so Sibling Support, which is a charity that supports young people when their brother or sister dies, has so many people coming in contact when their brother or sister has passed away. And more and more people, the more people hear about it, the more people get in contact. And there are some amazing organisations that do great work with people that have experienced grief. And there is support out there for young people, for adults, but it's that kind of sibling-specific angle that sometimes is quite useful. Just someone who gets how you're feeling, because sibling death can be different to a different kind of death.
Well, I suppose when you grow up, and you alluded to this, Gracie, that when you grow up and you're in a bunch of siblings, be it 1 or 2 or however many, you all occupy a space.
Yeah.
So I know, like, you've spoken about Laura. She wasn't a massive hugger, but
No.
she was really organised and would kind of sort you out in terms of things like that. So she could be the responsible one, and you could be the annoying little sister. No offence, you know, and take up that space. Yet when she's gone, that space has to be filled. Yeah. There's no one to do that stuff anymore, and no one even though you're seen as 2 separate people, you had your space in your families.
Yeah, I had to kind of learn how to... She always managed my money. She marched me to get help to buy ISA when I was 16 and all that stuff, and all of a sudden I was like, oh, I have to do all this as well now, and I kind of had to grow up really quickly, I think. And I think that's quite a common thing that a lot of people who lose a sibling find, that they grow up very, very fast in a very short space of time.
Absolutely, and you kind of expect your sibling to be there with you pretty much for the whole of your life, really. And sibling relationships aren't always strong. Some people actually have really fractious relationships, but you still expect them to be there. And when that person goes, it's just like, God, as you said earlier, it's like it's a future that's lost as well.
As you both know better than me, grief is a very personal thing, and people react very differently. I'm curious as to, you obviously get on well, and there are a lot of things you have similarities about. Were there differences in the way that you approached your...
I think occasionally Gracie has some wild ideas about where Laura is, like in some third dimension or something. But we're very
That's just to
similar.
keep her... I mean, I feel like I need to know a little bit about that thought process.
No, I just like to think she's... I don't know, sometimes if a good thing happens or if there's, like, a pretty rainbow, I'm like, oh, that's Laura. And I don't know what happens after you die, but I like to... And you always take the mickey out of me, don't you? Yeah,
but I'm a bit more matter-of-fact. But it's great, because then we can laugh at each other and we have different views on things. But I think for us, there are a lot of similarities at how we feel. But we're really conscious as well in the podcast that a lot of people will experience totally different things. They will not relate, some will really relate, and that's why we've got different guests coming on every other week who have their own experiences, who have gone through their own thought processes, and some of those will have different experiences to us.
It's been really interesting talking to you. I'm glad this got off the ground.
Yeah.
I'm glad you have different ideas about things, because grief is, as Charlie said, ever so personal, and just own the way you do it, because it's probably
Just
the
on
best way for you.
On that moment when you first met, I think, did you literally go from here and then have breakfast together?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Was there a click? Was there a moment? You know, you're having your fried eggs and you're having your...
I think
was there
vegetarian sausages.
I think it was in the green room here, actually, that we were just speaking about, and I believe it was your mum that suggested, why didn't we, like, every under 30 right now, do a podcast? And we thought, we've got to do it.
Yeah.
Well, good luck with it.
Thank you.
Both of you, thank you so much. The Dead Sibling Society podcast, starring, of course, Gracie and Callum, is available to stream right now.